Look how convenient it is. He got all these references together. This is just a screenshot from the email. So I hope all my clients do this. Even got some sketches to work with, and those are really helpful when we're dealing with something that is from scratch. Even prepared some color palette for us that will make us able to focus more on the creativity stops on this project. I just did some simple doodles first before committing to the full illustration of the characters. First we have Rin, and then for Sheath, he got some trench coat. His boots had some designs, so we implement that here, that little thingy there. At this stage, these are just simple sketches and doodles for the clients to see. Where's my pen? So when we send it to him, he can give us an update or feedback. Maybe his idea wasn't that good, and then he can see this early on at this stage. Unlike when we are already committed to the illustration, we will go so much further back. This is just what I've learned from years of doing this, because before I got some projects and I really put a lot of effort into it. I'm already committed into it. It actually has been, I actually finished the project, and then when I sent it to him, I realized that I got a lot of things wrong, or maybe the client just didn't like it. I really practice a constant conversation with the client so we can pinpoint what he wants. The very goal of this is to make the client satisfied. When I started practicing that, I haven't got a client that isn't satisfied with my work. It's not because I'm the best one. It's not because I'm good at drawing, although I think I'm good. Anyways, it's not because of that. It's because I've constantly tried to ask the client if this is good, do you agree with this, or you not? If not, you can do some adjustments for it. I think that should be a standard when it comes to anything, to what you need to do. Just not to finish it, to finish it with satisfaction. Not just for the client, but it will satisfy you too. And for the last character, we have E1. He got some fitted jacket and a high collar, and then he got some unique boots too. I like that. And he got this axe where it turns from a shield to a real axe, inspired from a Monster Hunter charge blade. I don't know what that is. I think it's pretty cool. The client wants to change something about the dress of Green, so this dress is about to change. But unfortunately, I'm going out, so we need to turn this off, and I'll just get it working on my iPad.
You can tell by the shoes and down south blues. A smooth cat like me got nothing to lose, cause I'm an outlaw. Hey, listen, this town ain't big enough for the two of us, honey. Come on. Now if they want that heat, just come through and eat. I got a hot and ready place to knock you off your feet, just like a southpaw.
Just got home, and this is what we tweaked while we're out. This is our first design, and this is the second one. I saw some side of the character that are not feminine, and also trying to implement the design that the client wants. So the feel of the design, he basically wants it to be in this character. So what we did was I copied most of the design here, and I noticed some kind of unfeminine look on our first design. What he says was the first design look very baggy, though it has to be, but it doesn't look feminine. So what I saw was this side, this baggy look, and then here they look unfeminine. So what I did was introduce this slim look, and then this one, to have more shape on the character, so then it will look more feminine. See, also this one, I removed this and closed the gap here. The slimmer it is, the more feminine it will look like. Before everything else, we will just do a simple perspective guide for the characters. We don't want no boring perspective here, so we're introducing some very interesting perspectives. I'm going to start first on just these boxes, because this will very easily represent what we're looking at. I'm just going for a very basic pose here, like a top-down shot, like CCTV shot. So with this second pose, I'm leaning more into a bottom shot. And by the way, we actually got some feedback from the new design that we sent. So this is the new design, and he liked it. And we'll wait for this update too. So now we're going for the second character, which is E1. Here is the design for E1. So we'll make a pose for him. So for this first pose, I'm aiming for a charge one, where it's like a baseball bat swing, but he's just charging it. Well, E1 has this two forms on his weapon. On the first one, it has a form where the blade is below, so it's used more like a shield. The second form of the weapon is used more as an axe. So for this one, it's more like a shield, and then it will form into an axe on the way. So that's what I'm thinking here. It's kind of unfair because I didn't give an option where she is moving. Just an energetic all-out use of the weapon. So that's what I'm thinking here. I think E1 is more athletic than Sheath. So we see he is more like a heavy hitter, and E1 is more like an athletic build, or like a ninja type. So maybe we're going to send more poses for Sheath, so the client have more choices to choose from. Because she is more like an athletic build, I want to see some dashing poses. So here I'm constructing a perspective guide. There's an extreme use of perspective, so it's like warping because of the speed. I added some sonic boom here. I don't know if this is a sonic boom. Most of the time when I'm drawing some extreme or very fast movements, I usually use those sonic booms. Actually here, we can add some of those. I just really love seeing this, especially when watching animes. It adds a lot more impact on the frame. So I'll give you some tips for drawing really hard poses. This is what I did. Yesterday I shot a video of me doing some swings. Drawing swings are really hard, so I look like a crazy person here. So what I want you to do is pose it on the right time, maybe here or here. Where do you want? It's up to you. If you really want to draw cool poses, you really have to accept looking crazy. I suggest you to have a real weapon of that size, because it makes you feel the weight more and it will look more natural. So here I didn't have any weapon because my room is very small. I'm pulling out my swings because I don't want to hit the wall. That's all that I can do with it. So just maximize your options. You see the thought process in that? Oh my god, bro. So what I did here is did a different pose where it's charged and it's already been done. What I've noticed here is the same poses actually can be used for a different action. So here he's just charging the weapon, and then here it's already been done. Also, compared to E1, where he has this sonic boom and dust all around, what I did on Sheath is added some rocks to portray more a heavy weapon user. So this is the pose that I will choose for Reen. That's where we're going for. We'll experiment on different angles. But I think a top-down for Reen is the right choice. She is a support character where she heals everybody. So that's what pose that I'm thinking. I'm just really having a hard time on what kind of, because those subtle things such as your shoulders, the position of your shoulders, because every subtle thing about your body communicates. So that's why I'm using those references to see what part of my body is moving, even though they're very subtle. Comparing these two from each other, we can see that the shoulder here are much lower than this one. So you see the chin, the relation between the two. The chin here, the distance between the chin and the shoulders are very small, which compared to this, they're very large. So those kind of things are important when you're drawing from references. If you're on iPad, I found a way to paste the references. For example, this one. How cool is that?
Don't ever turn back on your dreams. It's all in your hands. A change is near. Close your eyes, listen.
So for the other things, it's doing well, but now when I sent the update for Reen, now here it is. Now I sent it and I said, now here's the poses for Reen. Let me know what you think. And that's how I usually did it. And I thought that he would just choose any other pose, and he says that I like one, but what about the action one for her?
The action one for her.
And I'm kind of confused here because I think healer doesn't really have an action. When you're healing, you're just doing like healing just a person. You don't have any action for that. So I said that because she's a healer, that's the most optimal pose I can think of. And now in this part, I'm like, you know, I'm the artist here. I know what I'm doing. So I need to watch myself more because that's what I'm feeling here. And he says that, oh no, she isn't a healer. She's a fighter like her brothers. And I thought that, like, in my memory, I thought that she says that she's a healer. But now, looking back, she actually had a weapon. So I'm kind of confused with myself, though. Why did I think that she's a healer if she has a weapon? So I said that, oh, I thought she was. I read the description you sent. You said that my character isn't a healer, she's a time manipulator with a weapon recurve. So in this part, I didn't have anything to say, so I just said, how does she use her? Why did I spell her here? I'm sorry about that. So how does she use her weapon? Do you have any sample? So with this kind of stuff, I tend to get ahead of myself. So here we're just going to lean back a bit. So this is me. It's my fault, bro. I'm sorry about that. I think the pose is kind of sloppy. I don't really like it. I think we can do some adjustments here. So I'll select this one. The extreme bending here. Look at that. That has much more power. So I adjusted the chest area here. Here it is before. It was kind of low, and when you trace back here, if you're gonna trace back here, it will not be right. So here's what I'm saying about being too zoomed in when you're working. Here at the first phase, he's looking like this without much angle. And what we want to achieve is this angle. So the camera is looking right here. And here I was like confused. Why does it look like that? And I was zooming in like here in this part. So I was very zoomed in and looking at those details. So when I continued, here I got the right pose. So don't zoom too much. It will ruin your illustration. It will ruin the poses, it will ruin everything. I think the gap between his hands is like doing this. It needs to be more like this. Like this. I'm not really sure what am I doing. Yeah, I think that packs punch more. The first gap is like this, and now we're doing it like this. Also doing some curve here, so it will emphasize the power more. It's like, boom. I'll show you some tips on how to do a very detailed axe. Is not to do them at all. See, this is how you do it. You don't do it. It's not that I'm lazy to do that, to do the detail, but it's moving very fast. That's why we're going to just do a motion blur for the X. This is the sketch for E1, and we will see what the client will say. We have a confirmation for the project, or for the post. We have this post for Reen, so we can continue working on the post, and also we have confirmation of E1 sketch. Now we can continue doing them. I want the opacity to be very low, because sometimes when I'm doing the line art, I tend to lean more on the sketch below the layer, and what happens is when I turn off that layer, it will look sloppy, it will look bad, it will look like the life has been, the soul of the sketch has been taken away. When I'm doing the line art, I'm not heavily focused on following the sketch. I'm actually tweaking some things all around. So notice when I'm doing this, the hair, I'm not adding too much detail on the hair, but I'm focusing on the shape, because even though you're not adding too much detail here, you're not doing these bumpy bumps here, this kind of things, you know, you don't really need those. What you need is the shape, because you need to sell the illusion. So in art, it's just an illusion. You're just tricking yourself, you're just being tricked by us. Your mind will just fill in the gaps of what is needed to be filled in. You know, details are meant to be put in with intention. So such as this one, I'm putting a lot of it needs to be intentional, because if I didn't put that in, you won't feel the aggression of the character, but if I put it in, you will feel it. But here, even if I don't put some details on that, it will still look the same. I personally don't put too much details if I don't need it, because putting too much detail on a drawing or on a part of the illustration can feel very constricted or feel very crowded. And by experience, knowing this beforehand will improve your art drastically, not just in the quality, but you will draw faster. You will notice that on the first try, you will think that, oh, I don't need that. So on the second try, you know that you don't need to put that detail again, so you will know it beforehand, and that will improve your process time, your turnaround time on drawing. I know that I don't need to add those details here, so I'm just gonna skip that, and I'm not gonna contemplate on whether do I need to add that detail, do I need to add those details. You'll lessen the time on thinking about those things and focus more on the important things. Also, you can always go back on that. Just focus on the important things first, and then you can just go back on it after the drawing is finished. Just minor the minors, major the majors. I always tend to go for a very close hand grip. So such as this, my hand is closed, and it's what you can see here. The hand is very close, as if I'm not gripping something. Because when you're gripping something, it has to have a space inside. You see the change here, that this one is more like an open palm where there's a space inside. Instead of going for a curve here, I just did some shape here, and I think it looks good than before. This is the first lighting that I've tried, and then I have this second lighting because I didn't really like this first one. I think it looks very flat, but now that I did this, now I can confirm that this looks bad. So I think we're going for the first one. We're gonna use that. I added some wind effects here. So the idea here is he's exploding from here and he's dashing towards the camera. I always let it sit for maybe one day, and then I'll check it afterwards, maybe tomorrow, just to have a different look on the different day. Because sometimes when you just finish an illustration, you will see that it is not good in your eye, or maybe it is good enough, and then tomorrow it's not. So I'll let this sit just for one day, and then I'll check it again. We are now going to start working on sheet. My goal here is she has a very bulk look. I'm being exaggerated with this because I really want to push out the idea of she's wearing very heavy clothes. I'm focusing on not being too symmetrical with the shapes here. You really need to have a presence of mind when you're doing this. For example, here you can see the gap. They're too symmetrical with each other. It's like you're seeing repetitiveness, so you need to avoid that. Yeah, you need to eliminate those because those things will make the illustration looks very flat and very unprofessional. I saw the references. I noticed that I just realized that the weapon is fairly very large. So what I did was I just changed the perspective or the orientation of the weapon from the head. Instead of him just looking to the two-dimensional like this, I pointed it to the camera so it will look more bigger, and then some details would be hidden so we won't have to do them anymore. So we have a response from the client and he says, I absolutely love both of them, but I was wondering if you could add one or two even after images behind him to show his ability as well. There is a glowing blue version of himself that he can teleport to and elect their target time. I think this is like an ability of Echo from League of Legends. I think this is what he meant. So we'll do that. Since he is dashing, I think we'll leave after images here or here. Maybe two. Let's see what happens. I think we will choose a color that looks like glowing blue. I think this one is right. Choosing a pose where he is like charging the axe before he does this pose. Not really entirely sure where to put this, whether he is behind the smoke or overlapping the smoke. We will see. We're just experimenting for the pose for now. Sometimes planning is good, but over planning is bad. It will paralyze you to that moment of planning, in the point where you don't put an action anymore or do a decision anymore. So here, since I think I'm planning too much, I just started working on it and I just lowered the opacity of this. I think we have to do a more bent leg. It lacks some energy into it. This is the beauty of digital art, which is you can edit the drawing without being too committed into it. So I have mad respect to traditional artists because they have to plan everything before they start. I think we have to look for a reference of Echo. I think that's the right effect that we're looking for. Can't seem to find it. Maybe Pinterest is not a good idea. Yeah, I think this is the right effect. Sometimes Pinterest isn't a good idea to get a reference from. I think we need to add motion blur just to achieve that look. And then duplicate it, offset it just a little bit. As y'all can see, they're installing the Wi-Fi here. I think they're having a hard time installing it. I don't know if I nailed it, but I think I did a pretty good job doing it. Didn't even record much of the process because I was moving. So you see these overlapping lines. This is very simple, but it does a lot of effect in the illustration. If we will erase this line, you will see that it looks very flat and it doesn't have a three-dimensional look into it. See the depth of it with just a single line. So be very intentional on whatever you do, whatever line you're taking. Things such as this line, this one. So when I remove this, it will look very flat. You know, you need to really think about that especially when you're designing clothes. Like sometimes they have the specific stitches that all clothes have, such as this one in the back or this one here, you know. So those things, you need to be aware of that. I'm struggling to create the illusion of the knees bending like this. So it's going forward and then bending it like this. So I think that knee pad will solve that problem. I think we will add it just on one knee just to add some personality. And I think that looks awesome. I think we can work with that. We'll add some details here too. Just emphasize the expression more. Just very subtle change that makes a lot of difference. I forgot about this. He sent this reference, so I think we should add that. I think this looks cool, so we will add that. I just got my cat. Say hi. He's shy. Oh. Now just adding some rocks for some effects when he stepped on the ground, just to make it more impactful. I'm adding some motion blur or blur effect on the feet to emphasize the impact on this one. We're all about emphasizing and having a clear image, making it easy for the viewers to see that this is what's happening. This is such a cool effect. What I do is when I watch something, and especially when I think it's cool, I like break it down on my mind, like how do they do this kind of things, and I try to replicate it. I think it looks crowded here, so we'll add some here to balance it out, because I'm going to add for 3 rocks here maybe, just to make it more balanced. Again, we're not just dealing with positive spaces, we're also dealing with negative spaces. The way you use your negative spaces, it is very important, especially when it comes to composition. Just don't make it too repetitive, like this one, and then I'll add this one, then I'll add another one here, and you'll see the gap between the spaces here. They are very similar. Since we're pretty behind the schedule, I think we're just going to do just one pose for rain. The pose is very extreme. We have this line of action here, very extreme imbalance pose. Again, when you're doing this, make sure you're zoomed out and not caught up in, you're not being distracted and zooming in too much. You can zoom in, maybe those kind of things, and zoom in, but generally you want to do the big picture first, and then you can just do the details later. As you can see here, I'm being very loose with this because I'm looking just the big picture, not being too overwhelmed with the details. Also, keep in mind the big, medium, small, because sometimes I will do lighting but it doesn't really make any sense. I'll give you an example for this one. I can put something here, maybe here, but you know, that makes sense in a practical way, that makes sense in real life, but what happens is you have all the big shapes here. So what you want to do is add some medium shapes in, and then maybe small shape here. See that? Now you have 1, 2, 3 shapes that is big, medium, and small. Keep that in mind. You know, there is like a flow state when you're working. Now I'm trying to be in that state so I can finish this faster, but the distractions really, I'm very fast to be distracted, but getting into that state, going into that zone is really, really hard. Something like that is Ozzy. You know, something like that. I just get distracted again. So I need to focus more on not being distracted. Here comes my cat. See that? See her? Here. She's having a hard time. Going downstairs because look at her legs. She's always crying. I don't know what she wants. We're always aiming for a cinematic look, so we're positioning the light here, hitting his face right here. I often do the shadow first before this one, which is wrong, but it works too. I should do the lighting first before the shadows because it messes up with the process. Now I don't even know if I'm doing it correctly, but I think it looks great, so we will continue just doing this. And we will add this effect on the edge, make it more appealing, you know. On top of the layer mode, so I have all this foundation, I have the colors, I have the shadows, I have the lighting. On top of that, I will make some edit to see maybe we can add some more flavors into it. I think so far it works great. Since I have all this blending modes in foundation, now I'm not really doing much. I'm just doing the render. I'm doing this very subtle. I'm not trying to do major difference, but those subtle difference make huge difference. That makes sense. The layer modes will give you faster results, but it won't give you flexibility. Maybe I want this exact color. You really can't do much about it. So what I did was I combined those two just now. I'm just trying this. I'm combining those two where first I want to lay out the foundation where there's a shadow, there's a lighting, and it will give you results faster. Now that I have those, I'm now going for a render. We're going for darker shadows here. Just looking at the tight spaces where I think light won't even hit. This flexibility will hinder you when you face something like this. If we have a design here and you want to do a shadow, you will do it all over again. So for example, like this, I added the shadow there and you will add it again. Like you're doing it all over again. Learn what you like and really look what you enjoy, because sometimes people really enjoy doing those kind of things like this. I do not. If I can do it all with blending modes, I will do it, but most of the time you cannot, because using blending modes doesn't offer that much flexibility. It offers a faster result. Like I said, you don't need to do that much rendering. You just need to learn how to design things. Sometimes less is more. Sometimes being lazy is not a very good thing. So do your part. Learn what you need to learn. I'm lazy too. I feel those same urges that you weaklings do. I'm sorry about that. I should have said. But I feel those same urges that you feel too, that you want to just scroll, you want to just do anything, because most of the time it doesn't really get you anywhere. It just lets you be stuck, and that sucks. I think I don't have any reflecting. Most of the time like I said, I don't really know what I'm doing, but because of experience, I can get away with it. I think we're done with this. It just lacks some effects. Maybe we'll add some smokes and debris, although we already have some debris here, so I think we will do that. Before I forget about it, we'll add some layer on top of the line art and then lock it in. It adds some flavor into the illustration. We'll add this colored layer where the sun is hitting. I think I need to add some renders on the face. This side of the face just looks flat. Tell me now that doesn't look great. That looks great. I like it. The shoe shines a bit. I think that works. We're just going to put up the design first and then we'll figure it out later. The perspective of this is kind of hard. Doing an angle with the head like this, drawing in an angle, this kind of perspective is very challenging. So you have to get used to it, doing it over and over again before trying to do it in an actual work. I have a problem drawing female characters because I always tend to go with an anatomy of a man. I always do broad shoulders, something like that. Now, I'm trying to fix it, but it's still my problem. Because the hand is going this way, she's sweeping this way. So maybe the folds is falling behind like this. So there's a specific look on the design where it kind of budges up towards the forearm, but here on the bicep area, it's kind of slim. So I try to do that. So here you can see it bulges up here near the forearm. I made it slim here on the bicep area. We're gonna make the fingers a little sexy here, just to add some flavor. A lot of people are struggling with hands, but I think once you get the hang of it on how to do it, I think it'll make it so much more easier. You just need to learn where the point ends, where the point starts, and you can customize your own hands. I don't really like the flow of this slit. Let's try to make a change. I just think the slits are small, so we'll make it larger to have a more better silhouette. I just changed the face of it because it was not following the perspective that I want. This is the first one, and this is the second one. So you can see that the face kind of angled downwards. Now it looks more right within the perspective that I want. So what I did for the weapon is I had this design from the client. So he has this design. I just copied and pasted it in the canvas and then skew it, so then I can put it in perspective. Now it's in perspective. I can just add something into it when I'm going to do the line art. Right now it doesn't look like as good as it should be, but we can refine it later. I'm not cheating on this because this is the exact design that he sent to me. It just makes the work more efficient and faster. Now, just added this lines here just to fit them more in the perspective. The more that you're used to the process, the more faster you're gonna be. So just this one. I'm already applying the pressure from the pen on the get-go. So I won't go back to this anymore. You see this line weight and this one. But if you're doing this for the first time, you want to do a very thin line on the first base or on the first pass, and then add the line weight later. That way you have more flexibility on the illustration because you can edit it. But because I am used to the process, I know where to put it, and that saves me more time. So I won't suggest this to the beginners because instead of going faster, it'll give you some headaches. Just added some fingernails because it is closer to camera, so it should have more details. The more it is closer to the camera, the more details it should be. The farther it is, the loose the drawing should be. So that way, you save more time. When people see it, they just see a canvas. They don't zoom in on that. So when things are farther away, they won't really look into the detail. But when it's closer to the camera, they will look into it. Just added some designs too with the skirt or the dress to make it more interesting. I can't really copy the design from the references or the pattern, but I think this works. It doesn't look very flat, but I think what looks flat is this pants, so maybe we'll add something. Maybe we'll add this same design to here on her knees. I think that works. I think I'll just copy and paste it and flip it. Let's see what that looks like. It kind of works, it kind of don't. So sometimes you have to make it work. I think that's it. And we can work with that. So we just need to edit some of it. The main enemy you have from this is the perspective. You really need to see if it's correct. I think it does looks good, but the weapon choice is kind of weird because it does look like a bow, but it is used as a weapon, more like a charged blade. Well, it is not our character. We are not here to judge shit. We're here to do the work. We'll just do the work then. Maybe we'll add some hand grips here to make it more interesting. Also, do you see the hand orientation? It is not correct. So what we're going to do is correct it just like that. These small edits will take you seconds, so you have to learn how to edit your drawings, not to draw them all over again. Will save you a lot of time. And then when you have something like this, what I do is I put a layer mask on and then erase them. Why layer mask? No, why not erase? Why not just erase it? Because maybe I'll change my mind later. Maybe edit this or remove it completely. Now I can put it back and it won't hurt you to do this. I think now it just lacks some line weight, so we'll just add some line weight. You will see where it lacks because the attention or the focal point, you will see that when you zoom it out, such as here, you see there's not much weight going on with it. So you'll add some weight on that. Most of the time, just thickening the line, the outline will make the silhouette more better. But the main focal point here is this face. So what I'm gonna do is I will thicken up the outline of the eyes. What you want the viewers to do is focus on the face and make the face the first thing that they look at. So you'll pull more attention into it. And I think this looks great. Just like some design here, around here. I don't know. Maybe add something like that. Yeah. Let's try that. Just make it look like it's stitched the right way. Something like that. I think that works. We'll make some designs for her hijab. Maybe a design here. A circle here. You'll see this circle design repeating all over the character. We're not going to do a full circle, just this half, like horns. It's not a horn, but when you look at the top, it is like a circle, half circle. But here in this perspective, it looks like a horn. There's not a horn though. Just added some lines here to do an illusion of detail. You know we love to do an illusion of detail because that saves a lot of time. So I didn't get to record much of what happened after that. So we're just going to rely on the time lapses that we hear, and then we're gonna break down what I think I did on this part. So here, I added these lines here because I think the one before looks very flat. Most of the time, I don't really know what they're supposed to be, but when you have your clothes like this, they have this stitch here. So it just looks natural to us people when we see these things to be here. And if they are absent on that design, we subconsciously think that it is weird. Also, just simple things like this. This is the first version, and this is the second one. Just simple things like this one. It adds more life into the illustration. Now, I just sent it to the colorist, so I just gave him a guide like this. So it's just a simple guide. So this is the exact color that he needs, so he just needs to clean it up. Because sometimes the colorist doesn't get what the exact color that I want, so just to save time, because we are in a crunch here, just to save time, I already put out the colors that he needs, so the exact colors. He just needs to color pick that one. I'm adding the lights here, and I'm kind of experimenting. As you can see, I'm always going for the big picture first, and then later on we're going to just do the details or the small parts. When I laid out all the foundations that I have, when I already laid them out, now I'm going to work on that phase. I'm now focusing on the details here. Just looking at where the light will hit or where I don't think it will hit. Just to add a more three-dimensional look. This is the thing that I'm talking about, that I was asking from the last video, which is this one. You see this? I just forgot what to call it, but it is an effect where how do I explain this? You see this on sunsets. For example, we have a cliff here, and this is the sun. For example, most of the time the sun is above that cliff. So most of the time it's here with this little guy here. And you see your shadow just as it is. So you see your shadow just normally what it looks like. But the moment that sun goes here, so it is now setting, it is now going below that horizon. The light goes through this cliff, so it is now being bent. I don't know how to explain it, but the light will bend like this and then it splatters here. I don't know if you get what I'm talking about, but this is what it do. And because of that, it creates this illusion here. And also that's why the sunset looks very good because of that. Because it adds some colors into the shadow or in between the light and the shadow. So that's why we love sunsets, because of that color. Notice that I added that same effect here because the sun is hitting this this bow. Also the debris here and also the effects, of course, the wind effects. We don't forget that. And also notice that I edited some of it because most of the time the colors that I've added from the illustration from the get-go or from the start isn't what you will really look at the end of it. You see that there's a color change because I edited it on the last part. You can see the color here is more like, it's okay, it doesn't look bad, but here I added some more interesting ones, so I shifted the values a bit. So I think it is the curve, so I'm just experimenting on that. I don't really know what I'm doing there, but when I do that, I'm just experimenting and looking what really looks good or not. So it's just on your preference. And what does this do that I think is very cool is you see this shadow. I didn't intend this shadow to be purple, but you see this on her skin tone. It does look purple and it adds more character into the shadows unintentionally. I want the motion blur to be more prominent. I want it to like see that she is whipping her hand like this. At the end of it, the client says that the project or the characters are in an environment where it's like there's a cyberpunk thing. So the client says that. So I added this one. It's a very fast process. Also, the other two characters I added that effect too. So yeah, that's it for Rin. So this is the final look on E1. I think this is E1, yeah. So I added these neon lights here. I just followed the pattern that he already had. Also, you can see this. The after images had some eyes on it because I think it looks very cool. This one is just inverted part of this one. So yeah, you save some time there. Now we added some cracks here just to have more realistic look. I think I love this the most about it because it feels like it has a very great impact. What you think? And for Bashir, this is the final look. You've already seen it, but I just want to show it again with higher resolution. This is it. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video and let me know what kind of things that we should do more. Yeah.